kind of ran out of money to support us. I was like, "Hey, you know what? Before I go out, I'm just gonna like put the final version of my vision out there and see if that gets any traction." And when I did that, I think we were able to find customers who believed in us, find VCs who wanted to invest.
Hi and huge welcome to you, my lovely listener. So glad you're here. Today you're joining me for a chat with Jake. Jake is the founder of Serro AI, which builds Agentic TPM. Agentic TPM, what is it, Jake?
Yeah, so as engineering organizations adopt more AI, there's a lot more coordination that needs to get done. There was a role for it, right, in larger organization called TPM, Technical Program Management. You can say almost every company beyond 300 employees have a TPM equivalent role, whether it's called TPM or an EPM. I know a lot of companies are like trying to solve this space and calling it different things, but our philosophy is, hey, like there's already hundreds of thousands of people doing this job, right? So we want to kind of help extend their coverage to the agentic realm, right? Because before they only had to coordinate human effort, now they also have to coordinate all the downstream agents. So we're building the infrastructure for that.
I think this is actually very challenging, and it's also a space that is evolving very, very rapidly. Before we dive into the space more, I think it's also interesting what led you there. So maybe I would be really interested in your journey.
Sure. So before starting Serro, I was an engineering manager at Apple. I was a part of the ops organization where we built data collection software that collected data from all the Apple's product lines like iPhone and iPad, so on and so forth. That means our software was on a critical path to launching iPhone, launching iPad, and so on. We worked with a lot of like world-class TPMs there. And I think that's when I really learned about the role of a TPM, how important it is at scale. And when I had this kind of counterintuitive thought that, hey, like with AI, people are going to think TPM is going to be the job that gets replaced first. But in reality, it's going to be the hardest thing to replace because you have all these vertical agents like coding agents, design agents, product agents, right? A TPM agent is a TPM inside the company is a horizontal function. So it needs to be able to coordinate work between all those functions, right? And I saw that there's a gap and it's largely misunderstood. So I thought it would be a good opportunity for me to tackle.
I think especially if we look at these more complex roles, or a lot of companies have tried to replace workers. And I looked at it, I remember that was one of my first topics that I looked at back in 2023, beginning of 23 actually, when like ChatGPT started to take off and people were seriously considering that. I thought, okay, yeah, there must be a way. You give them company knowledge, you build some AI employees. And then I watched some startups in this space, and I'm still watching them. And at least my feeling from the sideline is they are not really doing this well. So they have settled on these AI SDRs that I see a lot. And then when I talk to people about it, then it's a lot of cold outreach via email. And at the end of the day, you just get roughly spoken more spam. So you have to kind of, it's a crazy competitive market to do like automated outreach. It might work for a while, later on it won't. Then on the other side, it feels like, especially these roles like what you're tackling, the progress is not that large to be very careful. They aren't solved yet. What are the real big challenges, and what will you do different?
Yeah. So surprisingly, tackling agentic TPM is very technically challenging because by definition, it's a horizontal and cross-functional role, right? So they have to understand like code bases, like design and so on and so forth. And while there's like code bases for developers and Figma for designers, there isn't really a tool for program managers other than, you might say Jira and Linear, but those are projects, right? Programs are different. Programs are kind of longer running things that the company wants to get better at. And I think the thing was before companies never had that many programs to run at scale. But now with AI, almost everything becomes a program because, people are moving so fast, they're not talking about features or products anymore, right? The way we work in our company is we kind of give everyone like a track to own, whether it's like long horizon, KGQA, which is like knowledge graph agent, or making Serro really usable, right? Could be a program. So what's challenging is programs don't have a native database yet, native system of record yet. And programs are temporal, meaning you have to be able to like trace decisions back, right? A code base isn't just a snapshot for TPM. It's what decisions were made, why we made certain sacrifices here and there, when we thought we were gonna like tackle it later, right? And like finding out all the dependencies over time. So it requires infrastructure, temporal storage infrastructure, and for the agents to be really good at navigating it, right? And this is a really difficult problem that I think a lot of companies are solving with like company brain and like shared memory, but not in our domain.
Yeah, I would, even if I look at like more classic industries, I would say it's a lot of manual work still, and it's also like if I look at program management, like in a classical corporate, it's a lot of requirements, gathering requirements, coordinating people, and then obviously building the work packages, breaking it down, as you said, like doing this. What I would be really wondering about is you need a lot of company knowledge to do this, right? So how do you plug into the existing systems? How do you get this knowledge? This is very company specific.
Yeah, we integrate with almost all the tools that the company uses when we go in. And what we're finding is TPMs and engineering leaders are very welcoming us, connecting to as many sources as possible. We connect to code bases, meetings, docs, ticketing systems, and chat.
If you think about agentic TPM, like in a very simple way, how would you define it, and why might it even be more infrastructure than something job threatening?
Yeah, agentic TPM, it's important to distinguish is technical program management, not technical program manager. When we say agentic TPM, there's more demand for TPM than ever, and that is outpacing the amount of TPMs there are in the world. There's a hiring freeze with TPMs. I'll give you a real example. The company we're working with has 2 TPMs for a 300-person organization, has 75 recurring reports, right? So you can imagine these, like, you can imagine how AI has helped the coding people, the design people, but middle management, they're still staying up, like trying to drill into like the statuses and so on. With AI, with Cloud Code, they are, now doing a lot of prompt engineering, but that goes stale, right, very quickly. So what we do is we take all these signals, organize it by program, make it available to everyone in the organization. So like all the, documentation, procedures, decisions, different parts of the code changes get attached to those programs so that when program managers or engineering managers want to ask a question about like, hey, how did we do, like tell us the entire epic story of how our team evolved, right? It can do that in like very fine-grained detail. So the first use case we tackled is like long horizon reporting, which other AI cannot do. But I think that's like automating reporting is just like showcasing how we are able to do like long-term reports really well, better than like doing it on Claude or any other tool. But for us internally, it's just like a internal goal, right? Like if you want to have TPM agents helping human TPMs and human engineering managers coordinate all the work, they need to have this long-term memory of the organization, right? So that so that we can move away from like one person prompting one agent or like one person prompting many agents, right? We want to get to many people orchestrating many agents together, and there's like a missing infrastructure there. And that's how we see ourselves. That's what humans have been doing, human TPMs have been doing. And we want human TPMs with agents to do that next. But there's no like digital extension of human TPMs yet, if that makes any sense.
A large challenge in all these spaces, I think, is the memory layer. And I would really be interested in how you're solving that, because that's also something that a human program manager would do a lot, right? They would gather information, consolidate it. So how did you solve it on the technical side?
Yeah, I think even before knowledge graphs were very popular, we knew LLMs are models, right? And AI agents are only as good as the dots it's able to connect. And you need some sort of like, especially if you're doing like long-term reasoning, you have to have storage of like past events, right? Past snapshots. So that's how we think about it, where we are building a temporal knowledge graph infrastructure and building AI agents that can construct it in real time based on any real-time signals and navigate it in real time based on real-time queries.
And how does the interaction work? If I now have the human TPM, I imagine this working as an assistant for that person right now. How would the interaction work? Do I prompt it somehow? How does the interface look like?
Yeah, so right now, our TPM agents do quite a lot in the background. So first of all, it constructs a Gantt chart of all the ongoing programs for your company. And it maps out all the milestones, and it ships with a continuous alignment feature, right? Which continuously checks if like the top 5, fields of like a program definition are drifting. Then it would like alert the program manager or engineering manager who's in charge of the program. And then they can add any kind of like prompt-based widgets to, alert them when something happens, right? When a code gets, like a new PR gets pushed, which might impact these other programs, right? But yeah, there's definitely a chat interface to it on Serro, as well as via Serro MCP on like Claude or Codex, whatever tooling you use, to extend that program memory to your agents downstream.
Before you arrived at this, I think you did a lot of pivots during your company. What did you learn on the journey over the last 2 years?
Yeah, so when I started, I think we started with a smaller vision of the same thing. We wanted to, so back then we were also doing like temporal code-based understanding. So the idea was, if you analyze the code base and follow the developer's kind of footsteps, you can learn about what kind of a developer they aspire to be, right? And the composition of those, that developer knowledge will help you hire better people. So as we were building that, we realized, actually AI at the time by itself was not able to like get us the results that we needed. So we kind of like dove really deep into like the backend portion, like how do you make sense of like derive this like really cool insight about developers and projects from code bases and like code symbols, right, over time. And I think that's how we evolved it eventually. One thing I learned is, especially as an Asian founder, Asian founders tend to fall into this trap a lot. We tend to be try to be humble, because that's like a virtue in the Asian culture. And we try to tackle like smaller stuff that sound more realistic. But I think right before I kind of ran out of money to support us, I was like, hey, you know what, I'm going out. Before I go out, I'm just gonna like put the final version of my vision out there and see if that gets any traction. And when I did that, I think we were able to like find customers who believed in us, find VCs who wanted to invest. So that's the biggest thing I learned. So there's no need to be like shy about your vision. Like you should think ahead. Like if you were successful all the way through, what would you be building? And work on that.
Yeah, I think for venture capital it's very clear, right? So the VCs, like in basic math, they should only invest in companies that can return the fund. So you need a market that will become large enough, like if the company is successful, that is large enough to return the fund. And therefore you need like the big vision, because otherwise you cannot invest in the company. So I think this is clear. On the other hand, the bigger the vision, you cannot forget the small steps that you need to take to get there, right? And I think this also changes a lot over at which stage you're raising. I think pre-seed, seed, probably a lot about the vision, about the product, about the team. Series A, probably more data driven. So what back from the big vision down to the smaller one. So what's the product that then actually got like the first customers or first users that were really interested?
Yeah, so what got us the customers were reports, high ROI reports that companies do with a lot of manual work that couldn't be done with Gemini or Cloud Code. So there was one very specific report called R&D documentation. So in US and Canada, companies can claim credit for developer salaries. And that's millions of dollars for companies, right? But to claim that, you have to provide a audit-ready documentation on whether or not, like, at every given date, right, if a developer's work qualifies as R&D or not, right? But because we have that temporal infra, we were able to produce that report. So we could go into large enterprises and be like, hey, we're tackling this really big problem. You have a frozen headcount on TPMs, right? But the work is piling up. We want to solve it. We're not there yet. But one of the reports it's able to generate will pay for itself. And so and now we're at a place where we go in and after they integrate everything, we detect all the recurring reports and automate them like day one. And we're also able to do R&D documentation, right? Which we worked with PwC on. So you're right, like vision itself for customers doesn't really mean much. But I think it's a combination, right? Like you have customers that believe in your big vision, but also you have to provide them with like enough like substance so that they can champion you to like their leadership and be like, hey, actually these are the like concrete ROIs we're able to deliver, right? And then do what the teams want, like over long term with their support.
If you look at this, I think this is a very interesting space in B2B. How do you think about distribution and pricing for something that kind of sits on this coordination layer in between?
Yeah, we're not like trying to be very profitable right now. So we basically charge our infrastructure cost and usage costs. And for large enterprises, we charge by program usage. So any program that is tracked and human managed, we charge like $100 baseline. And if the usage increases, we charge for the overages, kind of like Cursor. And then there's like a infrastructure cost because they want dedicated infrastructure, which depends on like the size of the company. For startups, we are actually about to launch a startup tier. We charge like we are gonna charge $45 per seat and then overages beyond. So kind of like Cursor.
I think has been a long discussion around, is software as a service dead? Is it alive? How will it continue? What's your take on this overall situation in that market? Because you're going into this classical per seat pricing, I think.
No, so for enterprises, we're going for per program, not per seat. And that got a lot of good feedback from our enterprises because we're kind of aligning to their outcomes. You don't want a program where you can't justify $100 a month, right? So our customers find that's very unique. And we do unlimited seats for enterprises. For smaller companies, we don't do that because I think for smaller companies, programs is kind of a new concept. And also, we don't want to have that kind of like minimum threshold that they need to use us for. But it is a little bit challenging because, maintaining a knowledge graph is quite expensive because it continuously like builds memory for you and then like raises it up for you to review. So like a lot of AI running in the background. So yeah. So we wanted to do like some usage-based pricing for startups where, like we can just pay, we just like don't eat into the costs, but like as cheap as possible, basically.
We've seen a lot about, I think, vector databases in the past. Now you're talking about like knowledge graphs. Why not focus on like the product of a knowledge graph? Why did you decide to go into this Agentic TPM layer?
No, we thought about it. I think we started out with a real problem that I wanted to solve, right, in the world. And knowledge graph was like a natural, technology for us to reach to. And then at one point we realized we're doing knowledge graphs really well. But the thing is, every knowledge graph looks different for every use case, right? And even though we're doing really well with like program native knowledge graphs where it's like long running initiatives tracking knowledge graphs, and like we're really good at like resolving conflicts in real time. But there's so many use cases that like for instance, if you're trying to build like a coding agent, right? There's no need for it to like know the entire context, like of the past, like who did what, right? It just needs to know every code right now the best, right? Like what it could impact. So the focus is different for every use case. So that's why we're like, oh, actually, no, this is going to be really, really challenging to like succeed as a knowledge graph company, because it means what we're going to have to do what we've done for Serro for every company we support. And that's going to be really hard.
If you look 2 to 3 years ahead and you look at fully AI native engineering organizations, what will Agentic TPM look like? What will the organization around it look like?
Yeah, so it's not hard to imagine a world where the enterprises want to manage the system of memory, right, for AI. Could you agree with that? Yeah. I think large companies, for instance, like if there's like a system of record for memory, which every agent in your company subscribes to, it'll need to be managed in large enterprises, right? So that's what we're building. We're building kind of AI that reconstructs history by all the initiatives going on that agents subscribe to. And this is really important because the big future vision that we imagine is like, if you could really have like a AI native org and had AI as not just like agents, but like as part of your team, then you want one of those roles to be a TPM role who can help you make sure everything is ready to get shipped, right? Is this feature ready to get shipped? Hey, have we checked with that team, like if they're okay with us releasing this, right? And that TPM agent will probably do a lot of like context preparation for downstream agents, right? Like, hey, like remember like to take this design context from this team that they published, right? And hey, remember like actually Jake just had a discussion with Sid about this new way we're gonna do things, right? So we see ourselves kind of filling that gap, and that to us is infrastructure.
Yeah, I agree. So when I back in the days when I did my PhD, we looked at planning processes, and we used something called ontology, which is a concept in informatics, also to construct graphs that represented relationships between entities in the planning process, for example. So I think I think that also Palantir calls their information layer an ontology, kind of, because this way of like separating information and building these relationships in the information that you have in an organization is, I think it's really challenging. I think it's a huge topic, as you said, at solving agentic systems in large organizations is processing context and generating the right context at the right time. And to do that, you obviously have to know that this context exists first. So I think this is really big. And also, I think it's really challenging for organizations and itself, not only in your respect, you're already saying it's very hard for different use cases, but in general, for organizations, it will be really challenging to make the knowledge accessible. And they obviously will want this proprietary knowledge and processes that are their alpha. They want to keep it in-house. So this is also like building a company that can do this kind of stuff in any form. I think it's really challenging and interesting. If you have like TPMs listening now, what would be a concrete recommendation for them to get started on this way?
Yeah. So a lot of TPMs we reach out to have shared with me that they feel threatened by the development in the AI. I would say have more kind of confidence in like the role the TPM plays in large organizations. It's an essential role, which serves a horizontal function, right? It's the only horizontal function in engineering organizations, which aligns all the vertical functions. Without it, you have like regardless of speed, everything cancels each other out, right? It's a innately human function also, and I think you should think about how can I extend my reach and my impact, my influence as a TPM to the downstream agents of like the developers in different teams, right? Without having to be physically there, right? How do I design a program in a way that every engineering manager, product manager who's running a program can leverage it and run better programs, right? Without adding new processes. How do I give that, like long-term memory, long-term visibility to leadership, right? And engage your leadership with this conversation, right? Engineering leaders would really appreciate if when you're thinking about these challenges and like thinking ahead, and just being kind of forward thinking instead of like worrying too much about the job security.
Really interesting take. If people want to try Serro, where will they find you?
They can find us on Serro AI. And if for this show, especially, if you reach out to, I guess we'll create a coupon code for Nicholas. And then you can get 50% off first month.
That sounds awesome. Jake, thank you so much for being on the podcast. It's been a fun conversation. And to you, my lovely listeners, see you next time.
Thank you.